or good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. Welcome to our session, and thank you so much for joining us today. Next slide. My name is Masera Tailu, and I'm the lead presenter for our presentation today titled Youth-Led Participatory Action Research in Ethiopia, Implications for Higher Education, Innovation, and Employability. My colleagues in this particular presentation are three incredible graduate students at Arizona State University, where I'm an assistant professor. We have Atota or Atu and Adnan, who are both PhD students in the Educational Policy and Evaluation Program. And there's also Temesgen, who is a master's student in the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering here at ASU. Today, it will be just Atu, Temesgen, and myself will be presenting. But Atu is having some connectivity issues, so he may be in and out. So we're just going to see how it goes. But Temesgen and I are here. As we get started, I just want to let you know that our presentation is intended to be interactive because we know that we can learn so much from the tremendous insight of the audience. So in terms of structure, we'll start off with providing some insight about the national level context for our work. And then we'll introduce the youth-led participatory action research method and engage with the audience with any insight you may all have about youth-focused work. Next, we'll ask the audience to help us think through work in Ethiopia and East Africa, and then we'll conclude with a summary of next steps and highlight some audience resources we have provided. So Bree, feel free to, next slide. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this slide to just talk about the context for our work. So we posit that innovation and employability are major concerns for the sustainable development of Ethiopian higher education. Currently, and figures vary, depending on the person or the resource you're looking at, but currently the employment rate in Ethiopia is 6.61%, a figure that has climbed and will likely in recent years, and it will likely continue to increase as the COVID pandemic and a civil war largely concentrated in northern Ethiopia continue. In their work in 2017, Fenta and colleagues conducted a tracer study of Bahir Dar University graduates and found that unemployment tends to last about 5 months on average. Existing research also helps us think through some of the underlying reasons for unemployment. Alman and Sitotau, in their 2014 study of a summer cooperative about the generic skills preferences at Haramaya University, found that oral communication, is there a question? Found that oral communication or basic skills, thinking creatively, higher order skills, and being responsible, personal quality skills are most preferred among employers. And that basic skills such as mathematical reasoning and integrating among workers are least preferred. And higher order thinking skills are the primary needed skills from employers, where there seems to be a disconnect between what students are really well trained in and what employers are looking for. Similarly, Shemekit in 2021 determined that there's a lack of coordination and integration between higher education institutions and the labor market in implementing the various policies and strategies in place designed to support public university graduates. And this researcher specifically recommends establishing functional career centers as an ideal way to improve university graduates' post-graduation work life. Meanwhile, in their 2020 study of Deborah Marcos University graduates in northwest Ethiopia, Getty and colleagues found that graduate employment or delayed employment is attributed to the lack of soft or non-technical skills, which I've alluded to before, of graduates, poor entrepreneurial skills, and a mismatch of skills between graduates and employers' demands. It's interesting that these scholars also found a stark difference among their sample in terms of gender. So 51.4% of female graduates were able to secure a job post-graduation, while a higher number, 61% of male graduates were able to find employment within the same time frame. Now, Berhe in 2021, in an empirical analysis of urban youth unemployment, found that the situation for graduates in urban centers is actually quite alarming and exacerbated. This scholar found that individual characteristics such as age, educational level, and gender, as well as labor market forces like work experience and job market information are determining factors in employability of urban youth. And that 23% of youth were employed in urban Ethiopia in 2014 with a mean employment duration of 18.5 months. So we see how the unemployment duration actually increases quite a bit when we're looking at urban areas in particular. Berhe 2021 also found that both the incidence and duration of unemployment are higher in women than men. And age groups of folks between the ages of 20 to 25, which are typically new university graduates with no prior job experience, face the most difficulty in finding job and hence have the highest unemployment duration amongst all groups. And contrary maybe to conventional wisdom, this was like certainly surprising to me. Small and agrarian regions like Gambela have the lowest incidence of unemployment, while urban centers like Addis Ababa and Oromia have the highest incidence of unemployment. Now, Lakisa and Tura in 2020, who studied the status of guidance and counseling services in Ethiopian science and technology universities, found that students are either unaware or lack the confidence in guidance and counseling services provided by science and technology universities, and how guidance and counseling services currently focus largely on academic and psychological guidance, while little or limited attention is given to career, social, and vocational guidance at the two science and technology universities in their study. And there's no clear policy and guidance currently in the curriculum being implemented in the science and technology universities. And finally, Tamrat and Tefera in 2018, in their analysis of student mobility and employability, found that the main reason Ethiopian students study abroad is the pursuit of better employment opportunities outside of the country. And students, in search of better employment opportunities. And students base their selection of international higher education institutions mainly on the quality of learning experiences and the types of attributes and skills that they anticipate acquiring. Students are extremely confident generally when they leave the country when it comes to their degrees of preparation for the labor market after graduation from international universities. However, they tend to face lower confidence about knowledge and understanding of foreign cultures and languages. And contrary to strong evidence of poor return rate, I so like this idea of a brain drain happening, students in this particular study conducted by Tamrat and Tefera in 2018 expressed a high desire to return back home to Ethiopia after graduation. And so we see this again, another disconnect, so that while students are highly motivated to contribute to the development of to their country of origin and country of heritage after graduation, the lack of information sharing mechanisms among students and the government, the government and potential employers in Ethiopia renders the understanding of these students and skills. It tends to make their employment seeking journey pretty arduous. So now that was a lot of references or a lot of research to throw at you all at once, but overall what we see is that there is a major need to improve the context for improving outcomes of higher education graduates in the labor market. Next slide. Oh, is everyone, I'm just looking, hopefully, so I just got the message about difficulty hearing. I will try to speak up. I think it might be me. So considering this context, we argue that improving outcomes for higher education graduates in the labor market should be a priority. And then accordingly, we, the presenters here today, are team members of a USAID-funded project called Kefeta Integrated Youth Activity in Ethiopia. And we also actually have the privilege of having our principal investigator, Dr. Molly Ott, also present. Dr. Ott will not be presenting today, but she is our leader in this work. Kefeta is for the ASU team. Kefeta is a 5-year USAID-funded $60 million consortium project led by AMREF, an African-based healthcare organization. Within this consortium, Arizona State University, where I work and my 3 graduate student colleagues are going to school, is a sub-awardee and is responsible for various activities, including helping establish an Ethiopian higher education alliance, helping formulate and conduct youth-led operational research, developing a career services professional development program, developing faculty professional development workshop, conducting tracer studies of graduate employment outcomes, and designing education institution and youth empowerment fund award a youth empowerment fund award process. Next slide. Kefeta will benefit the lives, or is intended to benefit the lives of at least 2 million Ethiopian youth in 18 cities across the country. And the project will do this by building the capacity of local youth serving organizations and youth coalitions and establishing a sustainable youth-led youth empowerment fund. And that's really the beauty of the Kefeta project, that it's integrated across so many different sectors and organizations and expertise areas, is that it has 3 prongs. 1, developing youth assets and agency, which is really where we see the work of ASU fitting in. And in this capacity, the project seeks to build young people's capacity and life skills, work readiness, entrepreneurship, healthy behaviors, advocacy, and civic engagement. There's also the prong of increasing access to youth-friendly services, including youth hubs, career centers, health and financial services linked with virtual platforms, and then investing in youth. And this is really designed to help improve access to jobs, advance youth-led entrepreneurship, and community engagement activities. So altogether, this is right. The word Kefeta in Amharic means elevation, right? This is designed to elevate youth development, right? So this idea of positive youth development is really at the core and our guiding North Star across sub-awardees and partners. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Atu, who I believe is connected, yes, to talk a little bit more about methodology and YPAR and the research questions we seek to answer in that second activity, formulation and conducting youth-led operational research. So Atu, over to you.
Thank you, Messi. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, if you can hear me, I'm joining using my mobile phone because the internet connection is a little bit slow and bad. I'm in Ethiopia. Yeah, thank you. So if I mess up something, please, I apologize in advance because of this. So I'll be presenting the methodology part or section of our work and what research questions we'll be asking, and some questions for the audience to brainstorm with us. I hope when Masi introduced the context of the work we'll be doing, we are also going to collect feedback from the audience because the methodology or different aspects of the work we are doing is evolving, and we are open to your ideas. Just to introduce a little bit about myself, my name is Atota Halkiyo. I was born in Ethiopia, raised and educated and worked at higher education for about 8 years, where I was teaching as a faculty and serving in different leadership roles. Then after I moved to the US about 8 years ago, where I studied my master's and I'm doctoral candidate in education policy and evaluation at Arizona State University. And I'm currently a US citizen. I'm involved partly kind of as a research assistant on the project we're working on, Kefeta. So partly, that's why I'm interested in to participate in working, to continue working on it too. So methodology section for our work, we'll be using youth-led participatory action research. I would like to stay on this slide a little bit longer, why we want to use this research methodology and how we are going to implement it for the targeted students or youth. As you know, kind of in Africa, different aspects of society is top-down. If you take politics, for example, it is not citizen-oriented. The election is hardly in different countries. Out of 54 countries, I don't know which country is very democratic. So it's kind of the politics is also top down. If you take education, for example, pedagogy, it is still top down. I don't think it is student oriented. I know the ministry or different education institutions are adopting different innovations. For example, how to use different types of student-centered methodology where they can use different active learning methods. That is to include the audience, the students. In a similar analogy, research is also historically being done almost globally top-down, where participants are kind of not very involved. In Ethiopian context, the researchers do the research. So because the project wants to support youth and we want to involve youth, they should be part and parcel of the problems and the solutions. So the methodology we brainstormed to use for this research is youth-led participatory action research, because we thought this methodology is participatory. It involves participants, the students. It is more transparent. It provides an opportunity for two-way communication. And instead of having researchers plan, design, research, develop data collection tools and data analysis, and a kind of basically cooking the findings and saying this is your problem and these are the solutions. We wanted to use the youth-led participatory action research because we thought it works the other way around. We'll be helping to design the research with the participants, with youth, with students, starting from designing different, brainstorming questions. Of course, we have some brainstorm research questions on the next slide, but we can have them evolved by involving youth. We'll be brainstorming the problems together. Then we can design how we can address the problems. We can analyze and make them part and parcel of the solution. These different activities under this umbrella research methodology, youth-led participatory action research, we use different icebreaker games, problem tree exercises. Basically, those are some of the activities that we are thinking to operationalize this larger methodology in order to kind of effectively implement youth-led participatory action research. We'll be using icebreaker games because we need to build rapport. I think those of you who have experience with using this methodology, participatory action research, researchers should have to develop trust and a safe environment for participants actually to interact and to tell what they feel. So we developed these different kinds of icebreaker activity. For example, I am poem, where basically the youth can say about their identity without fearing. Problem tree exercise is also another way we are thinking to operationalize this youth-led participatory action research, but to identify deeper structural issues. We can use pictorial, a tree where we can use branches, trunk, and the root of the tree. For example, on the branches, the youth or students might brainstorm about the symptoms of their social problems. On the trunk, social problem itself, what kind of social problems exist. On the root of the tree, what are the underlying structural causes of those problems. So basically, we are using different activity to indirectly involve the youth brainstorm the problems and the underlying causes. Of course, we can use other research methods or data collection tools like interviews and surveys and questionnaires too. Next slide, please. Research questions. So we are thinking to address these, brainstorm research questions. The first is, how can higher education systems and institutions best incentivize research and innovation, basically to address youth unemployment? Under this, we have some sub-questions. The first is, what are the youth perceptions of employment opportunities after graduating from university? Do they feel they are employed or no job at all? Are they hopeful? We kind of want to explore those areas. The second is, how do higher education institution students and graduates typically search for and apply for jobs? Maybe it's different from the Western world. Maybe they are physically going from cities to cities. Maybe they are looking different job notices and job advertisements physically on different job boards. But anyway, I think searching for the strategies where the jobs are posted and how graduates are looking for the jobs will inform the interventions. The third specific question is, how do youth perceive how well universities are preparing youth for employment after graduation? Are the students happy, those who are being graduated, about the competencies they master once they are done with their program? Do they feel they can match their skills, experience, and knowledge, match the competencies that the industry is looking for, that the employers are looking for? Or they are sad about it and they have nothing to do about it? The other question is, what is the mobility of higher education graduates and who decide to leave the country and why? This is kind of related to brain drain. Those who are educated and have opportunity kind of leave the country, or even within a country, some graduates migrate from one region to another. And what is kind of causing those things? We want to explore that as well. And finally, how similar or different does the current unemployment in Ethiopia affect men and the women, and what institutional and behavioral changes are needed to improve gender equity? Basically, who is affected? Of course, unemployment is a reality in Ethiopia, kind of in Africa in general, but how about from gender perspective? Who is more unemployed? Where are job opportunities? In countryside, in cities, in which region? There are different regions. And in what kind of disciplines? And what is it like from gender perspective? Is it, if it is in countryside or in some disciplines, maybe it is not favoring women graduates because of the culture or different aspects. So next slide, please. So with that, we have some questions that we would like the audience help us brainstorm. I'm not sure how to use my mobile phone if you guys are going to use chat, but probably you can unmute yourself and reflect on these 3 questions. Or if it is difficult to do that way, you can kind of brainstorm individually for some seconds. Number 1 is, have any audience members conducted participatory action research projects, use-oriented participatory action research projects? And if so, what have been some of the most rewarding aspects and what have been the challenges? Anybody can choose and reflect on either of the 3 questions so that I can maybe read all those 3 questions. The second question is, what lessons have you learned, if any, about the most effective and supportive way to work with youth collaborators? Is it easy to work with youth, with students? Is it difficult? And what are the best practices? And the third one is, what principles should we keep in mind when disseminating findings? Obviously, the findings that we expect from this research is we use the participatory action research. That means we are going to involve youth, students, into different dimensions of our research, brainstorming the questions together, maybe designing together, based on their suggestions, using different data gathering tools. I can see Jennifer said, I have done participatory action research. Please, could you give us more details? And unmuting yourself, please.
Thanks so much. Thank you for this session. I'm really excited to hear about this work. So I'm Jennifer Lebron. I'm the USAID Higher Education Learning Network leader. I'm calling in from right outside Washington, D.C. And I participated in a PAR project with a collaborator in Chile. We actually worked to create a professional development WhatsApp group for Chilean English teachers all across the country. And this was really driven by her desire to have more, the Chilean teacher that I worked with, she was a K-12 English teacher. It was really driven by her desire to have more professional development opportunities for her colleagues. And so, my experience with her, I was, as the researcher, I was the supporter for her vision and her goals, and we worked together to sort of create these professional development opportunities in this WhatsApp group. But I was really thinking about how much we learned from each other and the ways in which we work together, and navigating not just the research questions, but the relationship and how we could find opportunities to connect. She was, I was intimidated by her and her knowledge on the ground, and I felt I didn't want to be an outsider and I didn't want to take over the project. And she told me through our collaboration that she was intimidated by the credentials that I had, you know, as a doctoral student, and the research experience I had. And once we were able to have really honest conversations about the power differential between our positions, it really helped us create a research experience that we were both learning from. So that was the most powerful thing that I got from that. Over to you. Thanks.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, the word collaboration, relationship, intimidation, and your certification or credentials are really very big words when we are using participatory action research. Yeah, other person can also unmute yourself. Really, I can't see you. You can take the stage and reflect on any questions, please. I can see someone wrote the research questions are interesting. Yes, I think we are at least doctoral students. One is professor. It is difficult to easily build a rapport when we are going to involve participants in participatory action research. We are hoping we are Ethiopian origin Americans. We are hoping we know the culture. We were born here, grow up here, to bridge that gap. And in addition to using those different activities to build rapport. Yeah, any best practices? Do participants really involve themselves, for example, in research design? My fear is research design is mostly done by researchers. In Afghanistan, we engage students. Yes, Uzma Anzar, could you tell us more about that?
Yes, thank you so much. So in Afghanistan, we were implementing a higher education program. So we implemented an initiative, which was an experiment, because it is a very sensitive topic. So we engaged students in collecting data on sexual harassment issues on campus. And just by engaging students in this data collection activity, as well as painting of murals, which was part of the design, to generate messages about this issue, which is rampant on campuses in Afghanistan. We were able to really engage students at a deeper level, and just by talking with each other and collecting data, they were able to discuss a topic which is very, it's taboo in Afghanistan. And it was a very interesting experiment for us. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I really like also, in addition to what you said, engaging the students at a deeper level. People are trying to involve people, like whether they are doing research or politics, they are trying to involve participants as the word involves the research using. Flavia Ramos, sorry if I mispronounce your name. It looks like you have experience with it. Would you say that more, please?
Thank you for the presentation. I came in late to the presentation. I'm glad that I was still able to catch what you were saying. And I have worked in Ethiopia as well. So I left my heart in Ethiopia. So I was there for 5 years working on a reading program. But anyway, way back in the 90s, I was writing my dissertation, and I was working with Paulo Freire. I'm from Brazil, and I worked with him. And I was looking at the gaps of his research process and trying to fill into what was missing from that. So I work with 2 groups at an inner city setting. This was in the US, just to test what I was trying to do. And I created this photo dialogo method that precedes photo voice, if people are familiar with photo voice. but I'm a graphic designer as well. So I was trying to get the subjective aspects of not only what's happening in the reality, the lived reality of people who are living like, you know, like in poverty or being discriminated against, or not speaking the main language of the land, access to health, housing, labor. So I have two groups, a group of teenagers and a group of elderly women in the community. And what I did, I had individual interviews with them, collecting life stories, looking at the main events in their lives that had a twist, or, you know, that changed the direction of the trajectory of their lives. And I did that with the youth, and I discovered a lot of things that I didn't know when they're talking about gangs and violence and how they're treated. These are like, I was working with Latino, Hispanic population, how they're discriminated against in their schools. And with the elderly women, they're not really that elderly, now that I'm elderly, I guess. They were talking about, you know, the isolation and the moving from place to place. So in the end, we end up creating a project that we have this intergenerational project where the people who felt like they could not do anything for their communities start to feel empowered by analyzing their own life situations and taking the guilt out of their backs. Like, people tend to feel like, I'm in the situation where I am because I did something wrong, or because I'm not smart, and then they realize that it's structural causes or that influence their behavior, the ways they live. And once they realize that, they feel empowered to actually even change how they feel about things, how they react to things. Many women in the beginning said, why you want to talk to me? I have nothing to tell you. My life has nothing. And they have very rich lives and experiences that they could share with the youth as well, who also felt in a way isolated. So they started doing this project they call the community health advocates, and then connecting the people in their communities to healthcare, to the resources that are available to them at the time that many of them would not even know, because they would not have access to the information, and demanding also the services and opportunities within their communities that could help improve the healthcare and the living situations in their communities. So I was using the pictures and creating pictures, like when you create a storyline, and then giving back to them, and they have to reflect upon their past experiences, their present experiences, and see the agency, agency and structures, like how much agency they could have, and also understanding the structures around them. So that was a very amazing experience. And I tried to do not the full extent, this was a 2-year project, the full extent of that in other projects that I worked. And also training, I was working in Indonesia, training university instructors on using action research and participatory research to integrate how they teach with what happens in the community, that many higher education institutions are disconnected with their local communities. So I'll leave at that so I don't take the whole time.
Thank you. That's really rich experience. Yeah, I'm impressed by your reflection. You are using both photo voice, basically. Yeah.
Well, photo dialogue is the one that I created. Photo voice came later.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yes. The youth are the authors and the owners of, they have agency. They can really help to address their own problems if the government, politics, and researchers try to involve them. All right. Any other person? Otherwise, I think I have about 2 or 3 minutes to hand over to the next presenter. You can always reflect us anytime, even at the end of presentation. Probably I will hand over to Tamasgen, my colleague, to finish the last part of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm really honored to be here today, and even more to be a presenter in front of ASU Leads for the Kefeta project. I'm Tamasgen. I'm a graduate student here at ASU at the Fulton Schools of Engineering, and I'm also a management intern at the Marylow Teachers College, and I'm assisting with refining the Youth Participation Action Research, YPAR, framework for ASU's involvement in Kefeta. I will take it from now on. So we would like the audience to continue your engagement in our conversation about geographic insight. So we have a couple of questions here. We can start with the first one. First question is, what are some of the most important lessons you have learned working in Ethiopia or in general in the eastern part of Africa? I heard there are some participants here who have experience working in Ethiopia and in Eastern Africa. So this is an opportunity for you to give us your insights about the lessons you learned about working in Ethiopia. So I will give you the chance. You can unmute yourself and then share your story.
I know I'm presenter. Kind of to say something about it. Working in Ethiopia, lessons, or what is it like working in Ethiopia in Eastern Africa? I'd rather speak in Ethiopia because I was born here, my first country. Ethiopia is very similar to other African countries. I think kind of the rest of the world, it smash it together. They call it Africa. Africa has got 54 countries or over that. When I go to schools in the Western world, in the US, oh, are you coming from Africa? Did you go to Africa? What is it like working in Africa? This and that. It's like saying, what is it like working in Europe? I think Europe is a continent. What is it like working in America? Which America? US or whatever, Asia. Africa is a continent. Ethiopia is a country. There are 54 countries and they are diverse. Let alone 54 countries in Africa. Those people who worked or who traveled or toured Ethiopia knows that Ethiopia itself is very diverse country, diverse society in religion, in languages, in cultures. For example, there are more than 80 different ethnic groups with their own languages, although kind of the larger languages are like Amharic, the national language, Afan Oromo, Tigrinya, Somalia. The likes, religion-wise, culture-wise, language-wise, the society is diverse. The other fact about Ethiopia that researchers or any workers or donating countries or international organizations should take into account is Ethiopia they consider themselves very indigenous society and non-colonized society. They take that seriously. They are very proud. During the scramble of Africa, when the Western was colonizing Africa, Ethiopia and Liberia, Ethiopia is the only uncolonized country. Apart from the capture by Italy for about 5 years where the society was fighting back, Ethiopia assumes itself as a free country, and they are really respectful of other society and other people. They are lovely people, but because they take that history seriously, they don't like the country or agency or researchers who try to undermine that history, who try, for example, to dominate. They could be poor. The country is developing country, as people label it. The country is kind of working hard to improve itself economically, socially, in different aspects. There are so many challenges, but the society, the students, the farmers, whoever, any member of society, regardless of religion, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of diversity, they take that pride seriously. And I think taking that reality into account helps a lot. Yeah, I don't know if it helps, sorry.
Yeah, it really helps. Thank you, Atu, for your insight. I can also share, as an international student from Ethiopia, I can also share my experience as well. Although I have spent most of my time there in school, I have a little work experience as well. So to give you some background, I lived in Ethiopia for about 20 years, and that is most of my life actually. And I have done all my study until high school and also 1 year of college there. And after finishing high school, I joined Adama Science and Technology University, which we call it ASTU. And I stayed at ASTU for 2 semesters, and then I was selected as one of the best 100 Ethiopian engineering students to be granted the scholarship program called Bachelor Science. And I went to China to complete the rest of my undergraduate study there for another 4 years. And I can say I had a pleasant study and life experience in China. But by the end of my 3rd year, I went back to my hometown, Addis Ababa, for a month-long vacation in January of 2020. Unfortunately, I couldn't go back due to COVID-19 pandemic, and I had to take all my classes online. And due to the time difference between China and Ethiopia, I had to wake up early in the morning to attend most of my classes, and I was free for the remaining day. So even though online learning was a challenging experience, especially for practical classes, but it also gave me the opportunity to work on a startup company called Hadis Tech with 2 of my friends. So to give you a short introduction about our startup company, Hadis Tech is a company organized by the 3 Ethiopian prospective mechanical and electrical engineers from the University of Electronics, Science and Technology of China. And we as a company have a mission to transform the technological development of our country, and also to keep businesses fully organized and encourage creativity for an effective working process. We went abroad because of the scholarship program created by our government's Ministry of Science and Technology. And for the time we spent abroad, we have seen many technological advancements in China. And our mission is to bring a technology transformation in Ethiopia. And our company mainly focuses on problems and projects that need electromechanical design and software development solutions. So we don't wait for other companies to contact us about their projects. Rather, we'll come up with a solution and contact the companies to thoroughly discuss our proposed solution to a problem. And thus, whenever we see a problem in our hometown. So I can say working in Ethiopia has both its own advantage and also some downsides. The advantage, in my view, can be open opportunities that are available. Sorry, is there a question?
I think you could continue. I think it was just an accident.
Okay, so I believe there are a lot of areas in Ethiopia, especially in the technology field, that are yet to be explored. And hence there is a wide open market for anyone coming up with a new idea. And also a solution to, we can come up with a solution to problems in the community, and we can have a successful business. On the other hand, the bureaucracy is a big obstacle, I can say, which prevents new startups from accomplishing their goal. It also takes a lot of time and effort to even get established as a startup company in Ethiopia, not to mention the challenge of getting loans for the initial budget of the company. So this is just my experience my little experience about working in Ethiopia. I can see in the chat that Mr. Brown, so you have an experience working in Ghana. So can you share your insights, please?
Hello, I'm currently at
sorry.
school now in Ghana,
Brown.
so sorry if it gets a little noisy. But yeah, I've just been in Ghana for 10 months now, working with 4-H Ghana. And I just realized that it takes some time to build relationship and to build a sense of comfortability with the students for them to share back. We're currently just doing like youth-led leadership agric clubs. So they're participating in they're building their confidence slowly, but I've noticed that it's just been taking some time for them to even share their ideas or participate at a level where they're actually leading the club themselves and are making decisions for themselves.
Thank you for sharing your insight. Thank you, Flavia, as well. So you said you have experience working in Ethiopia, so you can share your experience as well. How was it like working in Ethiopia in your insight?
Okay, I could not unmute myself. I was working at Florida State University, and we are partnered on a USAID-funded project, Reading for Ethiopia Achievement Developed. That was a READ TA, and that was from 2012 to 2017. And I was coming and going, but staying there for extended periods of time. So we work with 36 colleges of teacher education, and we are working with the local people to develop all these modules, how to best teach at the pre-service level, the courses on reading, literacy, and using, not changing anything they had, but pretty much using the course titles, the course names, and integrating content to update the skills of the instructors and creating these modules and training. We trained 280 instructors from the cities in all the regions. And then we would go back and see what they're doing, how they're also training their students, and how the students are, how they're doing when they go back into the classroom as teachers. So that was a great experience. There are many challenges, as you know, with the many different regions. We are doing everything in 7 different local languages. It was English, Amharic, and other languages. And we work in each region to not translate, but to adapt each one of those modules and the content of the courses into the local languages. And we have strategies for both the languages that are Saba-based and the ones that are Latin-based. We have issues with conflicts happening in the area when you could not travel from place to place. And, and then it was hard for the people you're working with, the instructors from the cities, to come to Addis Ababa as well. So what are the challenges? Technology, the fact that, I don't know what it is now, but it was all telecommunications were controlled by the government. So there are times that we have no access to anything, not email, and this was pre-Zoom, so I didn't have that, but any communications with people became very difficult. So those challenges, that I think that people in Ethiopia experience, all the time, in and out of those situations. But otherwise, in terms of working with the local people, it was a very enriching experience. We learned a lot. And I really liked all the, the people I've met and the places of what I went, and how open and supportive and, participating actively people we had in all these different contexts. And I agree when you said Ethiopia is not Africa. It's like, there are some similarities with other African countries, but I felt like I worked in different countries in Africa, that Ethiopia is very unique. And I cannot even describe, like exactly, because there's so much diversity within the country. But thank you for going back to Ethiopia and doing what you're doing now. I was really excited when I saw many young people like you with the talents that sometimes when they don't leave Ethiopia, they don't have a chance to grow up, to progress or to put into action the talents they have. And people that go away, sometimes they never come back. So the fact that you were back and doing exciting things and innovating, congratulations. It's really amazing to see talent back to Ethiopia.
Thank you, Flavia. Thank you for your insights and everything. So due to, since we don't have too much time, let's move on to question 2. So what do you think are some of the most effective strategies for engaging in culturally responsive development work that is conscious for local needs and priorities. So you can share your insight about this question as well. This question can be about anywhere in the world, and it doesn't have to be particularly in Ethiopia or in Eastern Africa. So you can share your experience about anywhere in the world. So I can share my insight about this question as well. For me, giving local solutions to global challenges can be one strategy. We need to find local solutions to global challenges, and we need to have them be place-based and also site-specific. And because the way that these problems are affecting us is very different from the way they affect other places. We can take youth unemployment as an example, which is obviously a global challenge, but the way it affects the US, for example, might not be similar to the way it affects in Ethiopia. So we really need to focus on the local solutions to a global challenge. So I can add more strategies as well, but feel free to unmute yourself anytime. You can interrupt me and share your insights. So for me, the second strategy can be making development work culturally appropriate. So going with the youth unemployment example again, let's say the US government decided to open like a huge industrial park in which a pork processing plant is included. Now, this might be a good idea in the US, and it can help solve youth unemployment somehow by providing the opportunity for some of the unemployed youth in the industry park. But building a pork processing plant, probably in Ethiopia or in some Middle East countries, might not be a good idea, since pork is avoided in these communities, both culturally and also religiously. As a counterexample, we can take teff, I don't know if you guys know, or injera in Ethiopia, which is a traditional food there. We can open a teff and injera processing plant in Ethiopia or Eritrea, which might be profitable and also culturally accepted to solve youth unemployment, but it won't be that much of a solution in other parts of the world. And we also need to take advantage of local knowledge in my insight. We generally understand the problems within our community and have ideas on how we could possibly solve them. We have to avoid thoughts like the West is the best or the West has all the answers, because the West might know what might work best for the local communities living there, but the West might not have full knowledge about what's best for, let's say, a rural sub-Saharan village in Africa. So we need to take advantage of that local knowledge, and people tend to know how to solve their own issues and have ideas, and we need to go and ask them about their beliefs and their thoughts about the issue and try to incorporate that with our policies in order to solve a particular problem. So is there anyone who would like to share their insights about this? Okay, if not, since we don't have too much time, let's move on to the third question. So what are your sources, podcasts, books, websites, blogs, etc., for news coverage about day-to-day politics or economic initiatives in the region? Okay, so personally, I currently, since I'm not in Ethiopia, currently I use social media like Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, YouTube, and other websites like fanabc.com, which are government medias in Ethiopia, to get day-to-day politics and economic initiatives in Ethiopia. But back when I was in Ethiopia, I used to watch news on television channels to get political, social, and economic updates. Okay, so we need to wrap up. Thank you everyone for your insight. Next slide, please. Okay, so by September of this year, our team will complete a full research proposal that outlines our YPAR data collection and analysis strategy. And more broadly, we will continue working on the tasks for ASU scope of work, which includes helping to establish higher education alliance, formulation and conduct youth-led operational research. We also plan to develop a higher education institution career services professional development program. We also plan to develop faculty professional development workshops and conducting tracer studies of graduate employment outcomes is also our plan. And finally, designing higher education institution and youth empowerment fund award process is also one of our plans to do as ASU in the Kefeta project. Next slide, please.
That's actually the last slide. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in the reference slide, on this slide, we provided some of the key citations for YPAR, including the 3 fundamental articles available for attendees, which are written in blue. So you can access these papers through this link that I shared for everyone. So that's all with my part. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for everyone for your attention, for your engagement, and for your support of our work. My contact information was on that last slide. I'll put it also in the chat if you'd like to reach out. I could be anyone else in the group. I could be like the connector. And thank you so much again. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are in the world.